So this video is going to be for the drawing package. We're going to open up our drawing, make sure that the only show standard formats is unchecked, pick RA landscape. And if you did each of the parts in its own sheet, that's fine. This is just an alternative. There are some advantages to both. If it is a assembly, sub-assembly type project, then it is an advantage to be able to print from one document rather than open the document, print, open a document, print, and go single each time. So let's go ahead and bring in our first. Again, I have the model view unchecked as to start command. So if you want to use this part of the interface, then start command when creating new drawing will be checked. Otherwise, if it's unchecked, you get to pick between model view and the view palette. So we'll do a little bit of each in this video to kind of illustrate. So previously, the first part, 3-10 isn't single. I think I'll leave it. So we'll have 4 sheets in this document, in our drawing document. So let's go to 314 and I'll open it. And let's go ahead and make sure I do the create multiple views so that it gives me more than one view. Places them, and then it roughly scaled and positioned so that doesn't look too terrible. I think it's going to kind of be one of those, is there anything in the top view that I need on the to illustrate this? So probably not. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the top view. I can always put it back in. But my first pass is to kind of establish the views, get to thinking about the tolerances, and we'll make that one half scale. Oh, that was the one that does everything, so that might be a little small on those guys. Make sure that I'm selecting the isometric view and scroll until I get to the custom, and we'll make that one the half view. All right, so we scale that one down a little bit, and it gives us more room in the drawing space. So that angle is tilted away from us. We knew that we had to make a decision on the tolerance, whether the 25 or the 30 degrees was going to be priority on that one. So if we do the view palette, we're going to go to the ellipse and do the dot, 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 and pick for 320. The advantage of going this way is that we can see the views, and we'll bring in the front view. Probably going to need the right view. And again, I don't know that I'm going to really need anything. Also notice that when I place that, the little mouse icon with the green check mark, that's the same green check mark. If I'd hit the right mouse button, it would have ended the insert views. So let's go to sheet scale. We'll make that one half again and set it over there. Still trying to think if there's anything I would need from the top view to make that work. All right, we're going to keep going. I'm going to stay with the view palette. We'll go back into the dot, 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 and this one had the has the issue with the angles. So again, probably going to need all 3 views and the isometric for this one. So there's my mouse button. If I don't move the mouse, I can right click and that will get me out of the inserting the views. So half scale looks pretty good there. I think we can make everything fit. And then for the last one, we'll do the model view. And I'm going to browse to 3-30. And we'll just do the create multiple views, pick the front and the right side. No, I don't think that's gonna work. Probably should have stayed with the the view pellet, because then I could see those a little bit better. But this is a good example, so we'll go ahead and accept it. I can see see that this would probably be better. Let's see, height-wise. Well, let's see if I change it over to the top, then here's where it warns you that if you've added dimensions, and I've done completely detailed drawings and realized that I need to shift one of these views, and it deletes the dimensions when it does that. So I'd put that in the category of that's not terrible. We'll have to see how far we get with it. So I'll go with the sheet at 1:1, and then the custom will drop it back to 1/2 just to open up a little more room. Okay, so our first pass, we enter the views, think about the tolerances. Now we're ready to start applying some dimensions. So I can go into the smart dimension. Oh, yeah, we had that op-round. So where that comes in is if I go to the model items and we go for the entire model, this is where the logic of the marked for drawing comes in. If everything's marked for the drawing, it brings everything in. If you bring in all of the dimensions, it brings everything in. So having the marked for drawing set as a default, there's not really a filter or anything that works with that. So that's one of the reasons why in my template I turn off the mark for drawing and I end up with purple dimensions. So let's go ahead and hit OK. There's my reminder that that 30 degrees has got some issue to it that we would want to resolve. But other than that, we'll go through and do what we did before of setting our dimensions. And that one's getting, there we go, we got the full dimension there. And we'll go to the height. All right, and then we can go to the 9 millimeters. And from a measuring standpoint, I would probably like to stay to the overall heights. So I'll keep going, going that direction. I put the 45 over here, so duplicating it there doesn't really help. From the base, then I can do that same, pick up the arrows and get 30 degrees. Or we could go between the two, but that to a certain extent, if I go to measure this, I'm probably going to try to get my protractor to line up from that face to that face. So pretty much telling it it's off of vertical. Coming back this way to the alternate interior, yeah, well, I mean that's pretty good. So we'll stay with it. All right, and then I have the 11 millimeters. The 7 millimeters, let's go ahead and drag that down. So it's not letting me really drag off to the side before it shifts back to linear, so I just need to place it and then I can drag the value over some distance. And then we need an overall for the 50. And then we also had the 30 here, so let's just go that way and we'll see. There's not too much difference in the application of the angular dimensions. So, well, let's see if we go to something like that and to one of those, and it's getting kind of crowded. So if we drag to the outside, then that will open up a little bit of room. All right, so I have dimensions until I go back with a critical eye or think about this. That's going to be good enough for now. Try not to cross the extension lines, but I don't think we can get too much better than that. So smart dimension, have our construction, 20 millimeters. stay with the 25. Now here I would like the arrows to go the other way, so picking on the grip at the arrow, that will switch it. We have the distance to the peak, and this was kind of the issue in the drawing, was picking up whether that was centered or not. So let's go ahead and reverse that one, and picking on the dot will reverse that one. All right, so that's in effect giving me duplicate dimensions of add that, and then that should leave that. So we can go, let's see, make sure that that selects. The little box that pops up is the same as going over to the modifications, and I can put a reference dimension on that. So it just kind of highlights that it is not symmetrical. That point is offset. So on our dimension text, that's the same as going to the parentheses in that little pop-up. All right, so let's get some vertical dimensions in there. All right, and then the extension lines, if it adds clarity to stretch it across, we'll stay with that. Trying not to put any dimensions in the part or laying on top of the part, and that should help clarity. So let's go ahead and reverse that one, and then I can bring that down. So kind of maybe the downside to the ISO, although that I'm thinking the ANSI kind of lining those up isn't going to be a whole lot better. There's just quite a bit of geometry there. So 25 millimeters to that one, and 12 to that, and I think that looks pretty good. So from being able to measure from that point, I would probably still rather go to the base. We have 15. And if I wanted to, I could put the reference dimension. We need the depth. We have to decide if we're going to put the angle. Well, the angle ends up being a little on the 2 decimal place side, which it's not a convenient angle. So putting in the dimension for the 15 millimeters may be better. All right, I'm sure I'm missing something, but I want to move this along. So we're going to go to the next one. And so this is get as many dimensions as you can in place pass. And then the next pass will be to get a critical eye on it, look at the dimensions, think about the next stages, and then we would pick up our geometry. So let's go to the 75. Into the 10, and then that was the 100, and that was the 60, so that's what's left. And we need one more to go to that way. Oh, did it again, so I'm going to escape, make sure I pick the objects that I need, and then we can set that one in place. All right, so the 60. So just by checking what's highlighting, I can make some determinations of what it is that I need to select for those shapes and for that geometry. So 60 to that one, deciding if I need that, or we have the 60 and the 25, that would be whatever's left. And the 60 back to that one, that was whatever's left. All right, so I would like one more center mark. We don't want anything selected so that I can just come in and pick the arc and then go ahead and hit OK. So not real wild that they came off of those points to center that. I think it would have cleared it up to pick a measurable datum or a reference and place that. And then we can go from the edge to the point. And no, I don't need the modify text there. And we do need radial dimension for 15. And we'll see what that looks like. All right, on to the last one. All right, so in this case, I want to go with a point. See if it'll let me add the point concentric or coincident to the arc. And since we have the, nope, that was going to fix. I was going to see if it would let me pick the center mark, but not really. Not picking up that point. We do need a center line there though, so let's go back into the annotation, pick up our center mark for the arc. Still don't think it's going to let me add that, so quit trying to pick things way out in space, and still nothing there. So let's go with the line, see if it'll let me select the midpoint and the point. Nope, not the center mark. Okay, let's get the center mark out of there. Let's get the drawing view out of there. And what I would like is for that to be horizontal. Okay, so that gives me an intersection point to the top of the arc. I probably could have done a construction arc to illustrate the same thing. But when I go to machine this, if I'm using, say I'm in this direction, I'm using a T-slot or a Woodruff cutter, then I would be touching off on the other side and going a whole depth from the top of the arc. If I was rotated and putting an end mill to run back and forth this way, then that would also, I would want to have a whole depth. All right, so for an inspection, we could go with, and hopefully let me have that point. Seems to be really liking that center point. So let's, or the center mark. And that is not what I'm wanting to pick. So let's see. If we go to F6 and show the filters, and let's see if it'll act as a vertice. Nope. Then, oh, there it is, sketch points. All right, so we go there, we turn that off, and we put in our dimension. And it still gave me the overall. Well, that's kind of, so let's see if I'm overthinking this. We'll hit the F6 again, turn off the filters, move my layers around, but that's okay. So we do need a 16, and then we don't really use the symmetry symbol that much anymore. So on the smart dimension, if I hold down the shift for the radius and go to the base, nope, it didn't. Still went to the center, so let's go to the leaders. And since I have an end condition, let's go to the min. That looks pretty good. So we end up with a 13.86. And then to have the whole dimension, I can go in and maybe that one stays as a reference or an inspection dimension so that it's available to measure from that point back. All right, so I made that a little more complicated, but it is kind of nice to have that point show up for the reference. So put in our radius, and let's switch that over to a diameter and go into the leaders or right-click on it, and we'll set it to a diameter. With the hole wizard, we can go to a hole callout, which gives us a little better definition. I don't have to do anything with the depth as far as putting it in manually. I would like to, in this case, since the hidden lines visible would help. And let's go ahead and see if that one's activated. So let's go with parent style, and that'll just show the drill point. It's not adding anything too crazy there. We'll go to that edge. So that looks like why I need the top point is I don't have the 30 degrees in either of these views. So I do want to add a center line. We have the 16 and the 8. I could rotate that view, but I'm going to lose all my dimensions and have to start dimensioning over, which it always goes faster the second time around. But let's go with, going to run out of a little bit of room that way. All right, well, it's a good illustration, so maybe I won't add all of the dimensions back in. The last dimension really that I would need for this setup, besides the 30, is to place the 21 and find some place for that to set that looks pretty good. All right, so for illustration, I decide that I want this to show the 60 degree or the 30 degree angle. Then we have the ability to rotate that view, and I want to rotate it 90 degrees. It warns me. Oh, and it left it this time. All right. Well, it lost, maybe lost something, but in previous versions, I have lost all of these dimensions, so maybe there was enough of a service issue that they found a way to fix that. So I don't really like that that's going over the extension lines that way or that way. Doesn't really fit in there, but let's go with that. And then we can set the overall height, and we'll set the angle. So that's 60 degrees off of that edge, and we want to do 30 degrees off of that edge. All right, what else are we missing? No, it looks pretty good. Okay, so learn something new. And again, there's probably some things missing. Let's go ahead and save this. This can pick up the drawing 314 to 3-30. And we'll save it. All right, so going back through the drawing template or the drawing package, then the next pass would be to start looking at the dimensions, thinking about tolerancing. Also, are we going to build this in metric, or is it going to someplace that uses inches? We can switch it back to inch. If we need to switch to 3 decimal places, which in most cases we're going to want to go to 3 decimal places. I don't have any dual dimensions, but if I did, I would want to just go ahead and make sure that that's in millimeters. All right, so that gives me those. We're looking for places that I am having the interference or the crossover from the metric to inch. Okay, so we're at that stage of it looks good, it's ready for design review, and then we can come back and address any outstanding issues later.